Hello and welcome to Scotland's #1 anti-nationalist show, the Majority Podcast. This is episode number 15. My name is Mark Devlin and I am here tonight with my co-hosts Niall Fraser and David Griffiths. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Tonight, I will be talking about Jim Sillars calling Nicola Sturgeon's referendum plans foolish.
And Niall?
Yes, racist Rideout gets a timeout.
Oh, yes. Okay. And I'll be asking, has the revolution started at St Andrews University? We'll be looking at the satire that's made the news headlines this week.
And of course, we have Zoomer of the Week.
Zoomer of the Week. Okay, we'll be back in just a moment. Well, hello again, and welcome back. We have lots of people watching again, mainly because of our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation, who have kindly agreed to let us distribute the podcast on their Facebook page. As usual, we start the podcast with a shout out to our donors. They made it possible through a crowdfund. If you would like to contribute to the podcast, you can just go to our website and majority.scot, and there's a donate button right there.
Yep. And if you can't donate, like, share, comment. Not every contribution needs to be a monetary one. Just a few comments, a few shares here and there really does help us out. Thanks all of us for watching it, and distribute it as far and as wide as humanly possible, folks. Thank you.
Here, here.
And we have to do a little shout out to, before we forget, to Mary, who mentioned last week, and she is here behind the scenes helping us get all your chat comments in order. And how's it going so far?
Hello, good evening, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to all your comments tonight. So please keep them short and snappy, and you have much more chance of having them up on the screen. Thank you. That's
great. So we'll see you a bit towards the end. For now, thank you. Okay, so tonight we have coming up. Niall will be talking about Tim Rideout, Hiding Out. David is going to be talking about Jim Sillars. Is he still in the SNP or not? But first, I'm going to go into my segment. Right, this week at St Andrews student newspaper, The Saint published a satire which was called Okay the New and Au revoir, and by a guy called Alexander Sparks, who I guess is probably a pseudonym. Well, one has to hope that it is a pseudonym. So, this got into the news because the nationalists were very upset about it. Now, what would they be upset about? Perhaps they were upset about some of the initial paragraph there was said. Some say there's a special place in hell reserved for Nicola Sturgeon, but I reckon she'd get turned away at the door for being too scary. Oh dear. Apparently Satan thinks she'd put Beelzebub off his cornflakes. Oh, yes, biting stuff.
Yes.
And the Mr. Sparks goes on to say, why can't I buy booze after 10? Why are there seemingly 20,000 alternative NHS apps? And okay, and why can't, about the booze, he says, well, Nicola Sturgeon must be the only politician who ever looked at Saudi Arabia's nightlife and said, I want a piece of that action.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
It's a great read, it really is.
Yeah, well, it's a good read, but I think the thing here is it's a student writing, and we can, it's not great writing, but the thing is, then why did this cause so much fuss? Basically, we have a student at St Andrews complained that this was misogynistic. And
Nonsense. Utter nonsense.
yeah, what do you think of that, David?
Well, I mean, the fact that you criticise a politician who happens to be female does not make it an act of misogyny.
Yeah.
There's no question of the woman's sex or gender. It was simply a criticism of the way she governs. So, a completely false claim as far as I'm concerned.
Of course.
Well, it seems quite common that
Yes.
when an SNP politician, or particularly Nicola Sturgeon, is criticised, that she will put this claim of misogyny up there. I'll give an example. Did you see, for example, today she was talking about, or was yesterday, she was talking about Alistair Jack and said that she has been patronised by
better men
than him. Yeah.
Yes,
is that not anti-misogyny or whatever the opposite? Against males.
Exactly.
Better men than Alistair Jack.
Man-hater, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this came out after that she was criticised by Alistair Jack for being, what was it, irresponsible, and I've got it down here.
Naive.
Irresponsible and naive about a no-fly zone in Ukraine. Now, I think a person can have a comment and say, yeah, that's irresponsible and naive. What's misogynistic about it?
Absolutely
nothing. What's patronising about it? There's nothing
misogynistic about it, and that's the answer.
It's really for a government to be so sensitive that they would criticise a student magazine. I mean, really, doesn't that just tell you something, that they are so insecure and have such a fragile sense of their own, I guess, competence, that they would speak out? I mean, can you imagine Boris Johnson talking about a London University student magazine, calling him, I don't know, criticising him for anything? He wouldn't even think about commenting on that. It's just ludicrous.
It's not just that. It's what rumbled on from there. An ex-presiding officer labelled the university basically anti-Scottish bigots.
Yes.
There's anti-Scottish bigots over there at St Andrews University in Fife. What a joke. Because one student newspaper writes one article criticising, and it's very tame, the article. It's funny, but it's tame.
In the article she says, Marwick says that they're anti-Scottish and anti-women, of course, again with misogyny. Rubbish. And she has the temerity to claim that St Andrews is not a Fife university. I mean, this is a common thing I think we see in nationalists, that if you don't conform to their nationalist view of the world, then you're not actually Scottish.
Yeah,
you're not Scottish. Now they might say, and actually you see in the comments to these articles, it's like, oh, it's full of English folk, and this type of thing. It's not part of Scotland. It's a little Oxford and Cambridge in
Fife.
In Fife, and it's like, well, what do you want it to be? It's like confused there. Do you want to have an international country or not? In that case, in any case, a good proportion of the students, including my daughter, for example, are Scots, and they're in there. So accusing Scots people who are students at Scottish students of not being Scottish really is quite.
She also went on to say these students are just upset they couldn't get into Oxford or Cambridge. I mean, what if they chose St Andrews over those two universities? What if St Andrews got an amazing reputation? Is it her that's diminishing Scotland's reputation for its education here?
Absolutely,
it's pathetic.
The resentment that came out loud and clear from Ms. Marwick in saying that, and calling people as a pejorative way of describing them, or they're just failed Oxbridge applicants, that is quite disgraceful.
It's
really
disgraceful.
That is quite appalling. I was really taken aback when she wrote that. And she's isn't she the ex-presiding officer?
Yes,
that's the person who's supposed to tell the MSPs how to behave. My God.
I know.
Right, okay.
I mean,
it's supposed to have a wee bit of candour about her.
Quite really awful, but the case was taken up by the national newspaper, of course. We have that here and there. Student paper is slated for mocking First Minister. Exclusive. Those behind publication dubbed pathetic wee trolls. I mean, imagine this headline there, exclusive. It's like a student newspaper wrote something bad about the First Minister. Yeah. Oh my God.
We send the dogs of war. It's utterly bizarre. I mean, like what David said, it shows you how insecure they are. And I know this is maybe getting into theoretical stuff here, but we allowed 16-year-olds to vote last time.
That's
So
right.
they're obviously going after the youth, and they're obviously putting things in the universities that are nationalist in their very nature. But they cannot allow these students to escape from under the SNP sort of boot. It's not going to happen for them. They have to clamp down on the university as hard as possible, because if they lose the indoctrination of the youth in Scotland, they're done. They're finished. And this is why it explains the whole just going after this student newspaper with everything. It's horrible.
Yeah,
it's actually quite terrifying.
I think it's
It's
quite
low
interesting.
tactics.
There was an article, there was a poll, I think, a few days ago, and basically said that there are two camps of people, two different camps when it comes to support for a referendum. There's the who are against it, and they're generally older, and they're not going to change their minds. And then there's the young people, and they could change their minds. So that's why they have to really focus in those people, because that's all they've got. They can never change our minds. In fact, I also said that people are very set in their ways, but actually young people aren't all that set in their ways. By the time they get to 35, they're pretty much turned away from the idea of breaking up the UK,
That's true.
or otherwise known as Scottish independence. So it's quite something to see the newspapers doing this. But I've like the National has a history of bullying people, and we had that example. That very thing happened to us when one of their journalists, a guy called Xander Richards, he basically wrote an article trying to find out who one of our writers, the identity of one of the writers, and that guy was Angus Robinson. Now, the reason Angus was not using his real name was for precisely that reason. He did not want to be exposed. And so basically when this guy Xander wrote this article, he just said, no, I can't, even the chance that I could be exposed to my employer is and have cyber nats on me is just too great. So he stopped writing for us. And just a few days ago, this guy Xander wrote, boasted about his bullying. Here it is. Can't help but notice this particular lecturer hasn't written for them since I wrote this. Funny that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wait, what? Can you explain this a wee bit more, Mark? Sorry.
Wait, I think, is he trying to say there, because Heroic Xander wrote a critical article, that he was able to chase this chap out from ever writing for the majority again?
Yeah, he's basically saying, he's saying the guy, Angus, who was who's a lecturer, they tried to find out what university he worked at and all this type of stuff. And thankfully, Angus didn't say where he was from and used, as I said, a fake name. Yeah. It didn't change the content of his articles or anything to do with it. But they wanted to find who he was and expose him. And they wrote an article saying, basically, we will expose you if you cross us. We will expose you.
We will find you.
I mean, if anybody finds herself in this situation, the best thing to say is, well, go for it. Go on, come expose me.
If people do have positions they want to uphold, they don't want to be in a situation where they're on the bleeding edge. I'm happy to do that, right? Yeah. And take whatever abuse comes my way, and you're happy to do it, and so on. But other people aren't, and that's why this article is very important, actually, because we have, in the midst of all this, students who are are being told to conform and that independence is good and so on. Then there's the one guy, two people,
the one punk rocker
process, who are putting their hands up and saying, "And you know what? No. The emperor has no clothes. We're going to make fun of him." And I think that is a really big development.
It's powerful, Mark,
in our society, because young people aren't conformists. They want change. That's the big thing they want, and they don't. It's not about. When they see the establishment saying you can't mock the First Minister, then what do you think they're going to do? They're
going to just do it more and more as a little dare. That's exactly right.
If you tell a kid they can't have the sweetie, what the first thing they want is a sweetie.
So the more actually the SNP say they should stop it, then perhaps the better as well. But I mean, authoritarians are, which is what they are. They want to control all speech. They want to control their vote. But I think that many young people will be looking at this and saying, No, I don't think so. These people have been in power for 15 years, and Nicola Sturgeon is just another politician. And and when they start to think that way, she's not anything special. She's just another politician who doesn't deliver on her promises, doesn't give them the free laptops they promised, doesn't give them the freebies, or that the freebies were really not what they expected. Then the scales kind of come down from. And I think we said this in previous podcasts that trends can change very quickly, and people can go, that nationalism thing. I don't think it's really what we should be doing anymore.
That's what we've got to aim at, making that the case, or helping to make that the case, and making nationalism seem unpopular, unfashionable. And that's what students want to be. They want to be fashionable. They want to be set in
it is already unfashionable, but it's the break the spell that the SNP have over people to make it seem civic and joyous. This student, I've got more respect for this student than I have for anyone in the Scottish government now.
Absolutely.
And that's a very, very stark thing to say, actually.
Well, it sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. And we'll
really
touch on this later when I talk about Sillars. But I agree with you. There aren't people making as trenchant points as this chap has done this week. And this is a student, for goodness sake. So, really, it's poor. It's extraordinary.
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Very poor.
Well, I think we've got this wee clip here of Muriel Gray. We'll see if it actually plays properly this time.
Anyone brave enough to criticise Scottish politics right now deserves not just a medal, but a safe house.
So Muriel's there saying anyone who criticises Scottish politics deserves not a medal, but a safe house. Now,
our medals are in the post, gentlemen. Don't you worry about it. They're in the post.
Yes.
We've reached out.
I've got the key to the safe house as well, if you want to come and join me.
Just don't give the address on air, that's all.
No.
Yeah, so I'll come to your house.
Loads of great comments coming in, folks. Fantastic comments. I see a lot of people are highlighting what's happening to the Glasgow Cabbie. We're aware of it. We are looking into it. So,
it's interesting.
I love the one here. Someone today compared Sturgeon to Arthur Thompson and Tam McGraw. What an accolade. I mean, these are two of Glasgow's most notorious gangsters in the last 50 years. So, it's true. You cannot speak out against their leader.
What kind of society are we if we can't criticise our leaders, or at least we feel self-censored or cowed in some way? And I will come back onto this a little bit later. To wrap up this segment, I'm going to say a little bit about what we are trying to do to improve the situation. We started the Majority Youth Outreach Fund, and I'll put that on the screen here, which is a place that you can donate so that we can help young people who do want to speak up in some way. If the things that we're doing, for example, is we're starting competitions to promote unity, tolerance across the UK. But another thing we'll be doing is talking to people like the editor of the Saint newspaper and other student newspapers, and saying to them, well, how can we help you have more freedom of expression? How can we help you get alternative viewpoints into, how can we support you in some way? And some of that's financial, and some of it's just giving them promotion. For example, we promoted this issue in the Majority, and it became bigger and bigger, and it's been in the Spectator and the Times and other places as well. So it's all part of a system. We start to build up our power and build up our strength. And if you, dear viewer, can help by going to our site and donating to that, to either to the Majority itself or to our youth outreach, and our links will be under the podcast videos, wherever it is on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Okay, moving on, we are going. Oh, sorry, I should have said we've already raised £3,000. So thank you very much to the donors. Moving up. Now is going to give a shout out to Tim Rideout, who's in his hideout being a racist lout. And they will be asking, is Jim Sillars really still in the SNP?
Okay, everyone. So this week, Nicola Sturgeon's plans to hold a second independence referendum next year were labelled foolish. Now, there's nothing particularly new there, except possibly the identity of the person who said it. And it was none other than ex-SNP deputy leader, let's not forget, Jim Sillars. Now, Jim Sillars is pretty much a career-long backer of Scottish independence, but he's very, very critical of the SNP. And this week, Sillars, who is very outspoken, accused the SNP and the Green government, the coalition government, of what he called staggering ignorance. And he labelled them unfit to lead Scotland to independence. Now, what I found fascinating about this, firstly, is the fact that it's Jim Sillars saying this rather than anyone else. But secondly, the fact is that no opposition figures or commentators have even made the same point that Sillars went on to make, which is a very, very important point.
Yeah.
With Russia's invasion of Ukraine, let's not forget Russia being a nuclear power, Scotland's importance to the strategic defence of the UK and Western Europe has been transformed in importance in terms of Scotland's position, geographical position, in preventing the Russian fleet from accessing the Atlantic sea lanes. Now, that I thought was a fascinating point and a very, very important point, because of course it's quite true.
Yeah.
Now, Sillars was particularly critical of Patrick Harvey, who is, of course, a government minister. And Sillars pointed out that Harvey's ignorance of the geopolitical consequences, or he just pointed out that Harvey's ignorance of the geopolitical consequences of Russia's war with Ukraine. He further pointed out that, of course, while the SNP backs NATO membership, allegedly, for an independent Scotland, their government partners, the Greens, do not. They would prefer that Scotland comes out of NATO. And I don't know if anyone saw last week, Lorna Slater making the point that, or the complete non-point that, the nuclear weapons, the fact that we have them prevents us doing anything to attack Russia, so it'd be better if we didn't have them. Yeah, but then Russia would have them, and Russia would alone have them, Lorna, which would mean they could go into any country. It's kind of the whole point. But I can't believe I'm alone in finding it ironic that Jim Sillars, who, as I said, is a lifelong independent supporter, is the person who has articulated the crucial importance of Scotland remaining in the UK at this time, while opposition MPs and MSPs are too busy pleading with voters to back their particular party in next month's elections.
Let's get back to the beginning part of this. The problem here is that why are they even talking about this? They've no remit on this. We had this last week. Nicola Sturgeon's talking about Ukraine in a no-fly zone, and she's not party to any of the defence discussions. She's not party to any military discussions. She's not involved in it at all. All she has to do, all she's doing, excuse me, is get. All she can do is get on the TV and talk about it, which is what she's trying to do to build up her own thing. Okay, so it's a real. It's really not right. It's not the right remit at all.
No, indeed. She has absolutely no business talking about this. It's quite ludicrous. But it does strike me as odd that Scotland's pro-UK majority, the voters who are in the majority, are being so badly served by their elected representatives, who, of course, we've all said for weeks, months, seem content to sit meekly and mutely in opposition to the SNP Green government. And this is at a time when not only does the Scottish government seek to break up the UK, but is also quite happy to jeopardise the safety of the Western world. And it's staggering is the right word. Now, of course, the Greens being the Greens and being just as insecure as Nicola Sturgeon, in response to Jim Sillars, the Greens' comment was, oh, well, he backed Jackie Baillie in last year's Holyrood election, which, as the Greens said, in their words, shows that Sillars already has one foot in the Better Together camp. So what that means is if you criticise the Greens for possibly some unwise decision-making, which might in fact jeopardise the safety of the Western world, their reply will be, well, why should I listen to you? You're just a union. Even though he's not. Jim Sillars being a unionist is just ludicrous. But that's what struck me this week. A very, very interesting set of events, and Jim Sillars, who is nothing if not forthright, called out yet again the utter folly of the people who support who he is supposedly, ostensibly supporting. But of course, Jim Sillars, being a very able, experienced politician, is not a man just to allow anyone to make stupid comments without remarking on it. So well done, Jim Sillars. I was very interested in seeing that.
There's a point here, though, about the Greens. I mean, it's not something that we got in the notes, so a bit out of the out of our schedule. But I noticed that the people talking about these Ukrainian issues were, and NATO and so on, were Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater. I'm like, wait a minute, doesn't the SNP have a bunch of people who are dealing with this?
Exactly.
Why aren't they talking? Why is it the Greens now? Are they being held up for sacrifice by Sturgeon? Is that one possibility? I don't know. I don't think that's right. And I think there's a possibility, and I mentioned this in the tweets that this week, that she may be preparing them for them to be the next leader of the SNP or SNP.
Oh, what a thought!
I know. I've always thought that when you see her making the statements flanked by Lorna Slater, Big Bird on one side, and the wee goblin on the other side, it's pathetic. So it's like they are already de facto leaders in this coalition already.
About that then is, what about the other people in the SNP? What imagine you've crawled your way up through the SNP hierarchy,
like escaping Shawshank through a river of feces to make it to the top of the SNP, just to be the Greens, just to swoop in. It would be despicable, Matt. It would be honestly.
Well, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like, okay, yeah, you're right. You've crawled through this river of shit basically to get to near to the top, and then you're thinking, Sturgeon, she's going to leave, she's going to do it, and finally my chance is going to come, and then in they come. We are the Greens. Yeah. We are the Greens. We've got absolutely ridiculous policies, but but the thing is, the policies are so ridiculous that they get on the TV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a bit like that. Whereas sensible people can't get on the TV. So I'm
you have to be wacky and zany in order to
say something utterly ridiculous. Exactly. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So you've got them there, and so what? It seems to me, who would be the next person to take over? Who's a credible person to take over from Sturgeon? And more and more, it looks to me that would be Patrick Harvey.
Oh,
well, it could be Kate Forbes, but of course, Kate Forbes.
No, she's too young. I think they were just over.
I think she is too young. I think you're right, but I think she may be being groomed for the job because she was a big ask to give
a bad word to use
in the SNP in the same sentence.
Yeah,
I know.
Can't be doing that. But talk about Kate Forbes. Yeah, I don't think she's credible, really. I mean, you're talking about people, Angus Roberts and some of the old. The old hands. But if you've noticed, even Blackford was, said one thing and then was told a few days later, no, that's not right.
That's right. There's a couple of times that happened with him.
Right. That's happened recently. So that's happened on one side, and it's happened to a few actual SNP stalwarts. And then on the other side, it's like, okay, well, Harvey and Lorna are out there, and they're be given free rein, obviously by Sturgeon, because they wouldn't be a part of the government. They wouldn't be allowed to speak without her approval.
For sure.
So,
it could be Hamza Yusuf. Could be. Oh, somebody's just said it there. Useless for a leader. Great comment. Thank you very much. Say good minds think alike. Yeah.
Strangest things have happened. Jim Sillars has been a bit of a dissident in the SNP ranks, but I will always remember Jim Sillars for his comments at the time of the referendum. And I bring these up here, that there will be a day of reckoning. And to me, that was one of the main things that was shocking things, I think, before the independence. This is the 12th of September. Former deputy leader of the SNP has warned scaremongering business leaders they face a day of reckoning if Scotland votes for independence.
So he's effectively...
That's like, watch it for the revenge after we win.
That's right.
It's pathetic.
We know where you live. We are
Yes,
watching you. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly right, and I've never forgotten that. And I think that's exactly what would have happened if they had that. So while Jim Sillars might be saying the right things right now, underneath, he is still a person who will vote for independence, who will try to impoverish us all, make us less secure, and set us adrift in a world of danger. Right? That's a dangerous world right now. We don't know what's going on, and breaking up the UK is not it's something I think people are looking at now and going, I don't know if that's really such a good idea anymore. It seemed like a noble Scottish independence. Seems like a noble idea. Breaking up the UK, which is exactly the same thing, is not a noble idea at all. So, rant over.
Rant over, indeed.
Right, great stuff there. I think it's Sillars and these people, but we are seeing more dissent in the SNP ranks.
No doubt.
We're seeing more confusion, and that's all because they have no path to second referendum, and they're all like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?"
Do you think because they've do you think because of bottled criticism of the SNP and their party that as people start, the bottles just burst open and all the criticism coming out? That's what I feel like what's happening at the moment. Even St Andrews University is writing stuff. It's just brilliant. So I think they are falling apart at the seams. Imagine going after a student newspaper. It's Jim Sillars. Even their party loyals are abandoning ship at this point. I know it's glorious, isn't it, gents? Glorious.
Lovely to see. That fighting is great.
Yeah.
Okay, we have any comments? Clap some things here. Someone saying, I think we had some issues with the sound on the Muriel's thing. I think we had some issues there, but anyway, we talked about that. Let me see here. I was thinking Sillars and Nippy were pals. They'd been on holiday together at his holiday home. Still don't trust him. Oh, well, why would you even start to trust him in the beginning? That's what we see. Moving on. Niall is going to show us what he's been working on this week.
Yes.
And racism.
Yes, it's bad. Yes.
You're not racist, but someone else is. Here we go.
Yep. So I've been busy like a beaver this week, working away on taking down the SNP, and I thought, how will I share my screen, Mark? How will I do this?
I'll just. Have you got it in yours?
I could potentially do it. Yep. Share my
Try
screen.
and see if it works.
Window.
No, sorry, I've got one here, but
right. Okay, if you could do that, then if you could bring my video, hopefully it plays beautifully.
This isn't that good, but this is what Niall's been working on. Get the idea there.
Yeah. So I can't tell you how long it took me to put that together, but I thought I'd done a good job with it.
Yeah, I think it's.
And a lot of people liked it. So yeah, I know that last bit really gets me every time, honestly. So thanks for queuing that up for me, Mark. Thank you very much. So the video to me was an answer to a question that I've been asking myself. You know, how does one encapsulate all of the SNP's failings into a less than a 2-minute video? Because I'm very conscious of people's time and attention spans are diminishing by the minute. And I need to make it entertaining as well. So this is the sort of thing I come up with. It's all the headlines to the music, and it just flows so beautifully. So I hope you liked it, everyone. And now on to my actual segment. We were talking about Tim Rideout.
First of all, I think we should get the viewers. If you want to Niall to make a similar video, and we've seen a few comments there. Excellent, great stuff. Please send in your suggestions through the chat, and he will get them to work. You know, we like to get them slave drive them a little bit, but that kind of thing I think is important because you can see just the vast mass of mendacity that the SNP have, and perhaps one suggestion is that we make something that shows all the times the nationalists or Nicola Sturgeon has promised a second referendum. That will not come, but you know, every week we see a headline in the National that says, "Just coming soon."
Exactly.
Next week.
Next week, it's off the mark. You know, get set, ready, go. It's every couple of months. You know, off the mark, off this indie, off the mark. Let's go. You know, ready to start. It's a lot of BS. I mean, the National. I don't know why they still even make papers. Honestly. Right, so just moving on so quickly. Thanks very much for your brilliant comments there. Right. Tim Rideout, the currency guru, whatever the currency guru does in the SNP, which I'm sure is a nothing position because they've not got any ideas on what the currency is going to be. So for them to even have a position that's a guru is like laughable. You know, he's been exposed this week as a racist when he says, you know what, Priti Patel, how about you just pack your bags and go back to Uganda?
Shocking, a shocker.
It was unbelievably shocking. I mean, I've heard some bad stuff, but it's got to be right up there, you know. And I mean, how ignorant does one have to be? And he's one of these guys, Mark, who's crawled through that rivery crap. You know what I mean? He's done the Andy Dufresne. He's done it. And this is where it lands him. You know, it's.
I think we have the original tweet here. It's down the bottom there. So how do we send this person back to Uganda? You know, it's like, you know, we say it all the time with people talking about, you know, we see it every day in the National site. At least once a day, there's someone saying, go back to England.
Go to England, aye.
You know, go to England or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, that's, you know, that's not where we're from. Yeah. And, you know, Priti Patel, I think you can disagree with Priti Patel's politics without, that's like a
politics, yeah.
I think you can disagree with that without you know, being a racist. It's not that difficult. This is the thing that really surprises me, and is it something to do with when people get into power or they get into these positions that they become racists? Because I know when I was brought up, and I hope that I'm worried because is that something that could happen to us? Because I'm not a racist. I have not, you know, I don't say racist stuff. I was brought up not to say racist stuff. I've had years of watching the TV that's told me not to say racist stuff.
Absolutely right.
It's years of conditioning, and yet every week we see these people saying racist stuff.
This is the party that brought in the hate crime bill, right?
True.
So, yeah, all these racism, misogyny, they were talking about making that a hate crime. I mean, this is an actual hate crime. Nothing will happen to this Tim Rideout. Nothing.
Yeah.
He'll be put into pasture with Janie Godley. He'll be in the hideout with her. Until the wind blows away and she's done.
Here's Nicola saying we should root out racism in the SNP after advisor Tim Rideout suspended. I mean, what? You know, your whole party's racist against English folk. I mean, you know,
this is particularly bad because one of the comments here is that Priti Patel was in fact born in London. And if that's the case, you cannot culturally stereotype somebody and say, go back to an African country on the basis that she's a person of colour. I mean, that he could seriously face a charge for this. That's an appalling thing to say. You can't do that. Guys.
I mean, although I don't think anyone should be charged for words. I mean, the SNP put these policies into place to be used. I don't think they'd be using them on their own folk, or I don't think they would, assume that would be happening. But it's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I often say to people that we shouldn't actually give the nationalist leadership a chance to distance themselves from these comments, because you see a lot of people, like someone says something bad in the SNP and they say, oh, Nicola, please say something about this. And that just gives Nicola Sturgeon the chance to say, wow, it's not really us. It's not us. It's someone else. It's an anomaly. It's, an outlier, something like that. And you're like, no. It's not. You created this thing. You 100%. Made it happen. Years of demonizing the English under Westminster, or demonizing people, building up hatred and grievance every effing day. And then at the end of it, you say, oh, well, it was just an anomaly. It wasn't anything to do with me. Like,
I mean, and this, he was bold enough to say this right out in public, It's not as if he's having wee private conversations and he's being racist in private, although we can maybe infer.
That's right. It's written down. It's like, don't you read what you write, or don't you just say straight away, or as soon as someone puts up a comment, says, this is racist, mate, you go, well, you say, no, no, it isn't it? Or, I'll go take that down straight away. It's just a basic decency. I don't get it. How these people can think they can say it and get away with it. I don't know. It's maybe they think they're beyond reproach and somehow.
I think it's because it's such a common occurrence in the party that they think they can get away with it. That's why I think it's because it happens. It's so commonplace that when somebody gets exposed, they're like, oh, but I was just being normal.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be able to distance themselves from that normality, I suppose.
It's reminiscent to me of when Corbyn's Labour Party was being accused of racism, and people were saying, "Oh, don't be ridiculous! Corbyn's the most anti-racist person in the country," or something ridiculous like that. And it's the very idea that anyone in the Labour Party could be considered racist just seemed inexplicable to them, and it seems something similar here as well.
I think it's anti-Semitism, Row, you're talking about.
That's exactly right. Which of course is
it's a very similar circumstance.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. It's the same type of thing. Exactly right. Yeah, indeed. But very disappointing.
But it's anyway. I mean, currency. I mean, what is the currency guru doing? What is he going to? Is he going to decide whether it's the groat or the? I know.
Honestly, what does this guy's 9 to 5 look like?
Yes.
Come up with currency 9 to 5, and he's had 6 years at it or whatever.
Yeah. We've been working in this for 84 years as a party. We still don't actually know. I'm going to figure it out tonight after a cup of tea.
It'll come to me. God has a plan.
Let's not forget, Rideout is allegedly the currency guru, the head of the currency committee, I think it's called, something like that. But this is the same man who, in the past, has said, oh yeah, once Scotland votes for independence, we'll be able to have our own new currency within 3 months, of the vote. Now, even the guy, Andrew Wilson, who wrote the finance section of the Independence White Paper, has estimated that the process would take 10 years. So this is the SNP's currency plan. It will take 3 months or maybe 10 years. So I mean, there's just no substance whatever to this. And so the only way he's ever going to make headlines is by saying something again utterly ludicrous, and so it has proven. So well done.
Well, it's falling apart. The currency guru is gone. So that taints the whole thing. Really.
Yes,
the currency is racist as well.
Yeah.
Ugandan, what currency they use in Uganda? Oh God.
Oh my God.
Very poor. Very poor indeed.
Right, very good. Thanks for that, Niall. Next up, it is the highlight of our week. What bit you've all been waiting for. Yeah. It is, of course, the amazing swimmer of the week. Well, I believe we are going to start with David today.
Hey, okay. So my swimmer of the week is SNP MP, comedy club owner, and fortunate recipient of a £250,000 COVID emergency support grant from the Scottish Government. How lucky was he? Tommy Shepherd. Today, this very day, Tommy Shepherd tweeted, "It's great news that Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe has been released, though think how much sooner it might have come if the Prime Minister had done anything to help." Now, Miss Zaghari Ratcliffe, of course, arrived home today after being detained for 6 years in Iran on spying charges. So imagine what she must have felt if she read an obscure Scottish MP using her personal misfortune to make a nebulous and wholly unnecessary political point. Just shows really, yet again, what a classless, joyless and clueless shower SNP MPs are. And as I tweeted today, can't you just switch off for one day and be happy for someone? It's just pathetic. So I really was struck by that. I thought it was dreadful.
I don't think we can
cut in here, you know. Can you bring the tweet up again, Mark? Sorry. There was a bit in the tweet, you know, if only Boris had acted soon, or the Prime Minister had. I'm pretty sure they gave 400 million. They wrote off a historic debt, or it was, I think it was 400 million was the price tag that I seen. So I think that's quite a lot.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the thing, these are not things that you really should crow about, though, because the argument which a lot of previous prime ministers made was, you don't give money to terrorists who have kidnapped people, because all it does is to encourage further incidents. Because if they think, oh, we'll just kidnap this person, keep them in absolute misery for 4 years, and we might get a few £100 million out of it, you can't really do that. So these are the sort of things that should be left to people working behind the scenes in private. Certainly they shouldn't be the subject of a would-be funny remark from an utter nobody like Tommy Shepherd, and it couldn't have less to do with him. So I thought it was a really poor choice of words today.
Well, it's also like, I mean, basically, I think it was quite hard fought to get this lady back.
Exactly.
And you know, we were listening to this on the radio today, actually, and just as as our commenter there, Rita says, I think Liz Truss might be a bit cheesed off with that comment. I mean, this is the thing: absolutely. People are actually working day to day on real issues. And I will say, though, Tommy Shepherd is an MP, so he does actually have some say on international issues, but unlike Sturgeon and the rest of the MSPs, who should be talking about local issues. I think, but we have this culture of, if something comes into the news, we have to virtue signal about it straight away, and we have to try and make some political point about it, irrespective of, you know, decency almost. And I think people are quite, I don't know, I'm tired of it. Okay, I'm tired of it. I don't know if you are tired.
I think I'm just going to coin a new term as well. It's either virtue signaling or victim signaling.
Yeah, quite.
There's only two modes that SNP operate in. You know, you'll see her later on when she was, you know, Alistair Jack said, oh, she's a bit naive, poking her head into someone that she shouldn't really be doing. It's so misogynistic. Oh, I've been patronised by better men. It's the victim card.
Yep, indeed.
You know? Yeah, it's shocking. Shocking. Anyway, we're a little bit of time, so we're moving on. Oh, okay. So here we are. First, I'm going to shout out to this bunch of people in the lady, Scots Tory councillor, Claire Fever, who told her colleagues in Moray Council that Anglophobia is a problem in Scotland. She's not a Zoomer of the week. She could be a hero of the week. We have to.
We might do that.
So perhaps maybe add that in. But actually, in my minute, get rid of this. My Zoomer is going to be, earlier we talked about the Scottish St Andrews satire, and this is a thing I think that's been missing. And so my Zoomer of the week is actually Scottish comedians who are missing in action when it comes to commenting on the Scottish government and Nicola Sturgeon. So, you know, either they suck up to Sturgeon, like Janie Godley, who basically her job, you know, when she's not bullying people online and being racist, ableist, and any other kind of online, her job seems to be mainly over the past few years to burnish Nicola Sturgeon's man of the people credentials by creating voiceovers that make quite a bookish, boring politician seem more appealing to the masses. And to my mind, that isn't comedy. That's a form of appeasement.
Yes.
It's actually it's worse than comedy, because although not all comedy should try and challenge power, it certainly shouldn't support power. And I think that is a big issue. And then we have other so-called comedians, like, say, Frankie Boyle, who are quite happy to make jokes about the Queen. He made the joke about the Queen's hoo-ha being haunted and all this. But Nicola Sturgeon there is a walking joke.
Yeah.
It's
true.
There's so much that can be done. And why is it left up to students at St Andrews University to get headline news for writing a medium quality satire? Right? Yeah. Why is it left up to them to put their hand up and fight against the power? Why that is really wrong. And I just think that these they're silent, or they're complicit, and they don't want to stand up. Because we know they can't get into comedy clubs if they say stuff about Nicola Sturgeon. They can't get booked, but they're cowards. That's what it comes down to. And I'll say with one notable exception, which is Leo Kearse, who is actually very funny. Anyway, as if you see his stuff on YouTube, it's very good, and he's quite prepared to talk against Sturgeon and so on. But he said he's not allowed to perform in many venues. They won't have him.
Yep.
And that's part of the creeping nationalisation. And imagine that, a country you can't even you can't
even make jokes.
Comedians won't even talk about the politicians.
Which should be the biggest target, surely.
It should be the staple diet, jokes about the government. Exactly. You don't make jokes about the opposition. Why would you do that? Where's the edge in that?
Just a wee bit on Janie Godley as well. So during the election campaign, I called her a fake comedian, and she went mental. It was so she absolutely lost it. And started posting it all over Facebook, and I was getting phone calls for you. What was this? I hear about you and Janie Godley. I was like, nothing. It's nothing, mate. But she made a big deal about it, and then shortly after she got exposed. And
it's true, but she's been rehabilitated with instant speed, lightning speed, by the other appeasers. And I was particularly shocked to see the Times rehabilitating her. It couldn't even have been 6 weeks after those tweets. And if that had been anyone else, not who wasn't a pal of Sturgeon, who wasn't a Scottish nationalist, and people, if it was an English nationalist, we've said this many times, they would never even go near it.
Absolutely.
But because she's a Scottish nationalist and somehow speaking out against Boris, or somehow, and you don't even know if she does do that much, but she's really supporting Sturgeon, then she gets a free pass. I think it's really shocking. Here, Fat Shot Golf says both Boyle and SNP are court jesters and nothing more.
Yeah. And
someone says, it's pity we didn't have Spitting Image today. Well, Spitting Image was actually, I had a thing with the guy from Spitting Image, and I said to him, he's on Twitter, and he said he was going to do Nicola Sturgeon, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be just the usual, isn't it? You're just going to use her to bash Boris, and he blocked me.
Yeah.
Did he?
Something, right?
In saying that, Sean Geddes, pity we don't have Spitting Image today. We might just, it might not be Spitting Image, but it might come in a different form. We have got plans here at the Majority to make content for those who are sane. And it will be funny, and it will be in the style of Spitting Image. It might be better than the Spitting Image. Who knows? So if you want to get involved in this, contact Majority through DMs and offer your services.
Indeed.
That's great. So moving on, we have Niall. It's going to be you. I'm going to do the. Oh, there's the graphic thing. Here we go.
Oh yes. So this for the second week running. My Zoom of the week is Nicola Sturgeon again. We're going for the brace. 2 weeks on the trot. The video with Alistair Jack. I thought Alistair Jack was really measured in his criticism in Nicola Sturgeon. It wasn't in any way. It wasn't overly embarrassing for her. Let's be honest. It was very, very tame. He said, "Look, I think she doesn't really know what she's talking about here. She shouldn't be sticking her nose in. And yet for her to come round and say, well, I've been, I've been patronised by better men. It's her playing the victim card. So she's out there virtual signalling every day, and when somebody criticises her, she's out there and plays the victim card. You can't have these two simultaneous positions. It's unbelievable. I think it's exposed Sturgeon as the stone cold loser that she actually is. And there was a few people that said
criticism. We see that a lot in the nationalist sphere. We had run-ins like Janie Gordley's a good example. You criticise her, you say, I think your comedy's rubbish, and they go, you're a misogynist.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, or you're a what is she says, a red trouser wearing Tory, Union.
Yeah, a tartan Tory, a red Tory.
That's what you say. And you're like, wait a minute, I mean, I'm just, not just saying that because it's obviously part of a discussion, but you're saying, well, your comedy isn't really that good, and you're acting as a political support for Nicola Sturgeon. You're a misogynist. Like, wait a minute. And it's happened multiple times, there's the poet that we had, conflict with, same thing. Well, the poetry's, really, Scots language and all this type of stuff you're promoting, it's like, it's not really very interesting. Oh, you're a misogynist, you're a creepy man who wants to harass me and stuff. You're like,
no,
nope. Okay, well, I think that's not, really, that just seems to be their modus operandi. I don't know if it's maybe related somehow to Scottish nationalism. If it's like in the brain, you get Scottish nationalism here, and that gives you, I'm sensitive to misogyny here.
Yeah,
on the other side. It's just a theory.
Oh, no.
It's a theory there now. It's just a theory.
I mean, we should probably call it.
I'll let David call it.
Yeah.
Well, this week's choice, right? Okay, who am I going to choose this week?
You can pick yourself.
I can't pick myself, so I'm going to go. I won't give it to Shepherd because he's too much of a nobody. Let's give it to Nicola again. Let's get 2 weeks in the trot.
Yes.
Niall wins again. Let's give it to Nicola for consistent poor performance in her role, if nothing else. There you go. A bit like a footballer getting a yellow card after too many fouls. There you go. Same principle.
Right, a few more comments here. Okay, yes, okay. What's a red Tory? Well, I don't know. What is a red Tory?
A red Tory is it's used as a term to describe a Labour Party member.
Well, we know what it is.
You know what it is. I don't know whether Anne did. Sorry, Anne, I don't mean to be patronising.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, yeah, you're right. No mansplaining here.
No, mansplaining indeed. Sorry. Yep. So Nicola gets
right. I think the audience, the chatters agree that it should have been Nicola. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we're going to wrap up now. First of all, we are going to say thank you to Mary, who has been doing all of the chat.
You're very welcome. We've had some great comments tonight, and thank you, everyone. Please tune in again next week.
Yeah, because some of the comments we see on the screen are only a fraction of them. We see all of your comments in the system, and we Mary tries to choose the best ones, but we do see the other ones and try and comment on them too. Great, thanks a lot. We will return. I'll just leave you on screen.
Oh, thank you.
We will return. I'd like to thank all the donors for helping us. You can donate at themajority.scot/donate. Every penny you put in helps us fight against toxic Scottish nationalism. We are doing our best to do that, and you can donate also to our Majority Youth Outreach Fund and help these young people we talked about today. Give them give them something to say. Maybe it's a little bit of financial help as well. It can go a long way. So I also thank you to UK Union Voice and Unity Against Separation on the other pages that support us. I was going to leave you with the thought for the week, but I realised I haven't actually written it down.
Think of it.
But we have had some really good thoughts today. We'll leave Niall's. I think was good. It's what was it? Victim
signalling.
Victim signalling. So if they're not virtue signalling, their victim signal.
signaling.
There we go, thought of the week. So we will see you again. I'd like to say thank you to Niall and David and Mary.
Pleasure as always.
Yes. Pleasure
Thank you.
indeed. Thank you to everyone for getting in touch and interacting. Thank you so much.
And we will see you next week at 7 p.m. Thank you very much, and we'll see you then.
Cheers, guys.
Good night.